Happy Saturday. Frank Rock, House of Orange Sports Channel coming at you. Tennessee just wrapped up the orange and white game. I honestly don't know what happened the last couple of minutes on my end. I got technical difficulties, so I'm not sure really how, when I finally got back to it, all the players were wrapped up and singing. UTsports.com's being a little wonky right now as far as getting the live stats from the game. But, the orange and white game, what do you take away from it on a day like this, to be honest with you? I'll get into that. We'll talk about it. Talk a little football. We'll see what the reaction is here on it. If we don't have many, we'll go 15, 20 minutes, wrap it up. We can go a little pregame baseball if we want to as well. But, if you haven't checked this channel out already, appreciate you checking it out today. Any of you guys returning, thank you as well. Thank you for being in here last night. Baseball had a pretty good response on baseball last night. I've had some great response on basketball moving forward. So this thing just continues to build. So before we go any further, make sure you like this, that you share it, that you, if you haven't already and you like the content, make sure you subscribe as well. It is free. There is no cost for that. And, it is appreciated. Continue to build this thing and continue to try to provide coverage just for all three main sports around, not just obligated to one. It is, for me, fun to cover them all. I'm a fan of all of them. Always have been a fan of all of them as well. But, drop your comments in here for you guys. You've got 10 people in here right now. It's a pretty good little start. We'll hopefully pick up some more along the way. But drop your comments, what you liked today, what you saw, what you didn't like, what you're concerned about, what you're excited about moving forward. We'll kind of use this as the official kickoff for this channel, amping up into football coverage as well. Of course, basketball, I'm going to continue to be on that. Baseball, continue to be on that. But really kind of let football take a back seat so far. So it's time to amp that up. And this gives me a little bit more of a place where I'll start with it as well. As, I've not been as into spring practice this year, to be honest with you. I've been more into basketball and baseball than I have with that. Maybe due to me starting this channel and kind of putting an emphasis on that. But I am excited about football. I'm excited for what we see. But let's see. I want to pull up. The stats aren't the be-all, end-all in this game. A lot of walk-ons played today as well. A lot of your normal guys were out. But for me, things that stood out, I thought the quarterbacks looked pretty good. A couple times, there were numerous times I thought there was a case they got to get rid of the ball more. But, you got to factor in today as well what was the offensive line like they were playing behind. You didn't have all your main guys out there. And, this should be one of the best defensive lines in the country. I'm not sure everybody played on the defensive line today either, but to me, it just seems that, I don't know, there was, I agree with this one, Kyle. Mike Matthews looked really good. Mike Matthews looked like he deserved the hype today. Chris Brazzell looked good. Some of the running backs I thought did some decent things. I thought most of the quarterbacks looked pretty good today, to be honest with you. I thought Nico did good things. I thought Gaston Moore did good things. I thought Merklinger did some good things as well. We saw stuff. We saw just different guys getting catches today. UT Sports is about to PO me right now because I had the stats earlier, but it was like 8 minutes behind on it. I was really kind of curious who did what, but it's not cooperating too well right now, kind of like the end of the game. Yeah, Darren Weaver. This is a guy that was there was a lot of praise. Edwin Spillman, man. They talked about him. I've read about where William Inge, the linebackers coach, talked about him. And he said, and this is not quote for quote, but basically it's easier to teach a guy. What is it he said here? Edwin Spillman is not afraid to hit you, basically. So he doesn't have to teach Edwin Spillman to hit somebody. Sometimes I think they have to teach him to kind of simmer it down a little bit. But Edwin Spillman, man, I think he's going to be a good one for them. Of course, you didn't see all of Tennessee's linebackers, but, they started the game off with a sack, a supposed sack, getting in their blitz, and I like the blitz looks today. I'm curious to see how they play that in the fall because I've liked the time where with Tim Banks' defenses, they blitz and you get those games. It's like they don't, but I guess you have to take what's given to you sometimes as well. Edwin Spillman was a big positive for me today. The quarterbacks, Chris Brazzell, Mike Matthews, I liked what those guys brought today. No running back, honestly, really. I mean, they did some good things there as well. T-Lander looks all, but yeah, he does. He definitely does. I thought Jeremiah T-Lander looked pretty good. He looks the part right now. And he was the guy who come in first play of the game and kind of got in there and got that sack on Nico's. Of course, the quarterbacks were in alternate jerseys. It's not going to be free for all on the quarterbacks. And I don't blame them on this one. Pretty much anybody else it is. Defensive line, I thought looked good. We expect they'll look good. Concerns for me, I mean, it's secondary. Secondary started getting burned late in the game, especially when they opened it up some. But, is that a case of good quarterbacks, good wide receivers, or is this, you hope it's a happy medium in there as well. But, going forward on it, I'm still excited about the potential of this secondary. I'll be honest with you, and I think a lot of us were in the same. When the group of guys that hit the portal, it did not hurt my feelings any. Just because we've watched the same defensive backs for 3 years now, and, they've done good things. Don't get me wrong on that. But I don't know. I thought it could be improved. They've recruited pretty well in the secondary, and then they brought some guys in out of the portal this year. I think that secondary has a lot of talent. I think they have a lot of potential this year. Now, let's keep in mind, too, if that defensive line's what we think it's going to be, it's going to help that secondary out a lot as well. And I'm curious, too, to see the linebackers, especially when you get to the fall, when they have their full arsenal available. With Keenan Pili, I know they're really excited about him. You get, like Arion Carter back. I mean, I'll be curious to see Elijah Herring. He's played. He's kind of got thrown into the fire. He's had mixed results over the first couple years, but how can this guy improve? And that's one thing with them getting William Inge at linebacker. I thought Brian Jean-Marie did a good job rebuilding that linebacking core. Honestly, I thought they need somebody to take that linebacking core to the next level. Got to give Jean-Marie credit for how he's restocked that, because he took over a pretty dire situation at linebacker. A converted running back was really a couple converted running backs in Beasley and Jeremy Banks were your main guys. Plus, you were playing dudes who had been buried on depth charts before, and you had walk-ons even getting time. So the way he's rebuilt that room is pretty impressive. But I still think there was another step that needed to be taken. I like the guy they brought in William Inge. Seems like a veteran dude, a guy you got to think he'll recruit well. But, to me, I think you have to be a good teacher as well. Not all coaches, if this makes sense, maybe at the college level they are. Not all coaches at lower levels are good teachers. Now, I've had a guy I coached under before tell me that, he likes more teachers on staff, that not all guys are like that. And, it doesn't mean they're not good at coaches or none of that. But it seems to me, they had the halftime. I think they played the juice with Inge and then the new running backs coach as well. And Inge looked like he's really coaching these guys. I mean, they were entering the room doing basically shuffles and just kind of talking with them. They didn't show as much of the running backs room for you guys that saw it. But, orange and white game's always a good day. It's always fun to watch. I wish the stadium would have been available where they could fill it up more today, but it seems like it was full with what they had. I kind of laughed a little bit. I guess it was a Vol Walk beforehand. You had basketball and football coming down. The basketball team behind there was almost more guys who had graduated than there is guys returning. They only had six dudes returning. You had Dalton Connect and James and Vescovy were out there, and then it was like, I know I saw, who did I see? Cam Carr, I saw Estrella, I saw Meshack, I saw Ziegler. I think Kate Phillips was in there, and I'm trying to think. There's somebody I'm forgetting, but there was only like 6 of them, and it kind of sucks, but at the same time, I kind of laughed a little bit about it. I was like, man, hopefully, a couple of those guys that are in town this weekend, Cade Tyson and Darlene Stone-Dubar. Hopefully they saw that. It's like, hey, they need some guys here. I can come in and make a difference. Just seeing that, but seeing the crowd out for it today. Let's see what else we got here. Coach Edwards, a good hire. I believe we're going to play hard for him. I think so too. I like those veteran guys like that. You know they can recruit. You know they can coach. You know they can teach. Like a Rodney Garner. Yeah, I think Tim Banks is that kind of guy too. Maybe even Willie Martinez. Willie Martinez is let's face it. I think it's make or break for Willie Martinez this year. I really do. I was kind of surprised they brought him back, but what's the excuses going to be if it doesn't pan out this time for Willie Martinez? So I'm really curious to see what he gets done. I've been a believer in him before, but at the same time, I just watched 3 years worth of guys, and I did not see a whole lot of improvement throughout. I saw it with Jalen McCullough. I'll be honest. I thought Jalen McCullough, there was times I'm like, I don't know why this guy's playing prior to this past season. But, I mean, a lot of the stuff ranked him as one of the top 10 safeties in the country. So I'm curious to see how his stock is going into the NFL draft. I thought Judy Lawley had his moments. Kamal Haddon had shown improvement. Kamal Haddon was probably one of the best corners, if not only the SEC, maybe the country when he got hurt. So, there were results. There were results there. Wesley Walker, I was kind of mixed in. I always kind of liked Andre Turrentine since I've seen him. I thought he did good things. I know PFF ranked him low against Georgia, but at the same time, man, the guy always just seems to make plays. He seems to be around. And I'm saying he makes all the plays, but like in the bowl game when Iowa was actually about to score and Turrentine had that interception, game was over after that. Tennessee went down. I'm pretty sure they scored that time and never looked back. I think their safeties over as a group could be improved. Curious to see how that, they talked about Jacoby Thomas. I heard him say during the game, probably going to be listed as one of the starters. And I think Gibson's probably going to be the other one, just based off what I'm reading. And then, you look in the slot, who could go in the slot? I think Jordan Thomas is kind of your main guy, but he could shift to safety. You could see a Christian Harrison. That's a guy still just knowing who his dad is. His dad, Rodney Harrison, of course, was a bad dude in the NFL. He was a heck of a player with the Chargers and the Patriots. Great safety. Pretty sure he's Hall of Famer now. If he's not, it's a joke, but he should be a Hall of Famer now. If not, he's got those bloodlines. So got to think that's a dude can play some ball as well. And just some of these young guys are bringing in these dudes they brought in out of the portal. I thought McMurray from Temple, a little bit of a rough day today, but hopefully that's a good thing in a respect that he doesn't. Maybe he won't have to face guys like that once they get into the regular season. Now, you get into that week 2 against North Carolina State, they're probably going to bring some guys who are pretty good. If I'm not mistaken, they got a transfer from Ohio State. I don't know that I fully saw that, but I know they got McCall from Coastal Carolina, who's been a good quarterback. We'll see what he can do at a higher level, but I don't have much doubt he'll be a good quarterback. He'll be a guy they definitely have to watch out for in Charlotte on that. Let's see, we got here. Cody Branch cannot wait for fall now, like the potential in the secondary, and linebackers are violent. Edwin Spillman, man, I like it too. I want linebackers that are not afraid to hit. Linebackers that will come up and, guys, just to be frank, will knock the shit out of you. They're not afraid to knock you on your ass. All right. That's what you need at linebacker. You think of guys over the years that are some of the best that's played down there. They were not afraid to come up and just knock the piss out of you. And that's what I want to see out of them. And I feel like they have a room full of guys to do it. Not to say these guys before were not, but you go play at position, you better have some dog in you for sure. My biggest thing with them too is I hope they're guys that can cover. I'm curious to see what aspect William Inge brings with that. Are they able to cover better? Now, make no mistake about it, and all you guys know this. If the defensive line is not doing its job, that basically puts your linebackers and your secondary on an island. You're going to have a hard time. You can be really good, and you get on that island. If they have a quarterback has all day, that's going to be trouble. Let's see. Goes to Johnny Majors. Go Big Damn Orange. Absolutely. Every day. Spillman already looks like an SEC linebacker. I am really curious to see with him. And you got to think, too, He's not been what he enrolled right before what the weekend spring ball started. So he's not even had that basically that winter period to get in the weight room. He's not been in this college weight room as of yet, only for the time he's been here now. What's this dude going to look like? You get a full summer, you get that fall before it gets going. What's this dude going to look like then? If he's that violent now, and they talked about one of the hits he hit, was it Khalifa Keith, I think, early, and they talked about, said, man, we could hear that all the way up here. So this dude is not afraid to hit you. And I think you've got to, something that we're seeing out there now. And I'll get to a few more comments here and I'll come. He's got better athletes now. He needs to produce. I've always seen that a Josh Heupel offense, you're just not going to have a good defense with it. I don't believe in that because, yeah, you can look at the first couple of years. They've improved each year on defense. I don't think that's a coincidence. And the common denominator in that for me is the more depth you build, the more you can rotate guys in and out. Yeah, there's going to be those games where they're worn out and tired. I mean, you look at Kentucky last year, that defense had to be worn out the amount of time they were on the field. And they made Kentucky look like a All-American offense when they were really inept last year. The more depth you get, though, they're going to have depth on the defensive line to rotate in and out. They should have depth at linebacker. They should have depth in that secondary as well. The more depth you build, the more that's going to allow guys to stay fresh. And so the more that's going to allow you to have a top-tier defense. I'm a full believer you can have a quick-paced, very good offense, and you can have a strong defense as well. It just takes depth. It takes time. You're going into, year 4 of the Heupel era now. The more he continues to build it, the more you've got that culture in here. They're getting athletes. They're getting players in Knoxville. All right. Are they getting everybody they want? No. Are they still bringing in good classes? Yes. They're every year upgrading the talent, and they seem to be doing really well each year they're going to the portal. That portal has been a godsend for Tennessee football. Let's face it, because you had the disaster of the Jeremy Pruitt era. Over 30 guys transferred out. Thank goodness that portal was put into place then, because that in itself, Josh Heupel coming in changed the culture. But let's make no mistake about it. Get your Hendon Hooker, specifically getting this guy, getting your Brew McCoys. I'm just thinking guys off the top of my head. Cade Mays, who was there a little bit. Of course, Cade was hurt, but played some parts in that as well. Keenan Pili, I think of him. We were thinking big things. I think it hurt that team last year when he went out. You look at this secondary now. You look at how they rebuilt the secondary when they first got there. Was it a perfect secondary? No, but it enabled them to, build what was a pretty thin room there. They brought in some talent at wide receiver. Just across the board, man, it enabled them to do some things that sped up the process on it. I think you're probably referring to Willie. Martin got better athletes now. He needs to produce. I really think, and I saw it in the bowl game, and I've seen kind of talk about it just in the offseason with, leading up and in spring practice about how it seems like it's a more athletic room in that secondary. Ghosted Johnny Majors got to hit that like button. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button. Any Tennessee football fans, it's out there, not busy. I know it's Saturday afternoon. It's right in the middle of the day. Looked like a pretty nice day in Knoxville. I know here in the upstate of South Carolina, it's a pretty nice day. I can't blame you if you're out today. If you're in the upstate area, I saw that Yeehaw Brewing is going to have the Vols LSU on the big screen today and tomorrow. Pretty cool thing. If you've never been down there and you live in the area, it's always fun to go there and watch a game. It's not fun when you watch the Lady Vols have the lead on South Carolina. It's not fun when you watch Kentucky beat Tennessee and then 15 minutes later, the Lady Vols, it looks like, may have South Carolina beat, only for one of the biggest coaching blunders of all time to leave a girl wide open to hit a three. It was still fun, but it's like, dang, that was brutal to sit and watch. Boo Carter. I think this guy's going to be one that's going to be hard to keep off the field, whether it's at that nickel or whether it's in at safety as well. And is Boo a guy who could play both ways? Seen speculation on that. I've seen comparisons like Travis Hunter and stuff. I don't know. Travis Hunter is kind of one of those athletes doesn't come around too often, and I don't think he plays both ways in the NFL. It could surprise me, but I can't remember many who have. Really can't remember any off the top of my head. I don't even think Dion did. If he did, it was very little that he played offense. And Dion's he's probably one of the best, if not best, athletes that's played in the NFL from a secondary standpoint. And it is up for debate. Or to me, he was one of the best. He was something else. Of course, those guys that played baseball and football, Bo Jackson. Of course, Bo was a running back, didn't play defense. Brian Jordan, very underrated. He was an all-pro safety with the Falcons, all-star with the Braves, Dodgers along the way. You get some athletes like that are pretty good. Is Boo Carter in that where he could play both ways? I mean, it's possible, but I don't really know that Tennessee will need him on offense. It seems to me like, and we saw Mike Matthews Day. We didn't get to see Braylon Staley in there. I got a little Braylon Staley story actually. So for you guys that may or may not know a little bit, and I won't go too detailed with it, but my profession, I teach. So I taught my first year we moved to South Carolina. It was 5 years ago, 2019. I taught at his middle school. I didn't know him personally, but I would wear Tennessee stuff. We had some good banter, had some good times with people there. But there was a couple boys who were hey, do you coach at Tennessee? I went along with it just a little. I didn't drag it out. And I was like, yeah, I coach there. And they said, hey, I want to be recruited by Tennessee. That was one of your guys, Staley. I didn't know him personally. I did know a sibling taught the sibling, but that's kind of a cool story. And then seeing later on when he went through Aiken High School, he transferred down to Strom Thurmond, which his middle school coach, who was a heck of a coach and a good guy, went down to Strom Thurmond. So, and there were some issues with Aiken High because numerous guys transferred out of Aiken High going into their senior year, but Staley went down to Strom Thurmond. I know his old middle school coach, like I said, who was really good, was down there, but really cool to see that and kind of it took me a little bit to put the connection together with it. But I really wanted to see Staley, what he had today. He's a Blazer, and he's a solid wide receiver. He had a great year at Strom Thurmond this past year also. He's a guy that's going to contend for playing time this coming year. Make no mistake about it. I wanted to see him. Chris Brazzell looked good. That was the guy we heard talk about just with Brazzell. I mean, that looks like a guy that's going to be a heck of a pickup. I mean, you're looking today, they interviewed Brew McCoy. He's going to be back. That's exciting. Squirrel White was out today. This wide receiver room, I feel, is really going to be much better, much improved this year. And there's still a part of me last year wonders how much of the drop-off was due to quarterback play. Milton was fine. He was fine, whatever. But I still, me personally, at Florida, I would have made the change. They had their reasons for not making it. I had seen enough against Austin Peay, but I definitely saw enough against Florida. But they stuck with it. And we'll see. I think Milton's probably going to get drafted. But Ghosts agree on Boo. I think Boo's going to be a big-time player here with Kyle Beach, deepest wide receiver room we've had since Heupel's been here. I think so in terms of depth. I mean, you look at the second year where you had Tillman and you had those guys. It was a good room. You had your Squirrel Whites coming in, stuff, your Brew McCoys. But I feel that unit was more top-heavy than it was depth-wise. Now, man, I feel you could rotate these guys out. And Kelsey Pope does a good job down here. I know he got some flack this past year. It was unwarranted. You're naturally going to see a drop-off when you lose Tillman Hyatt to the NFL. You just lost a Biletnikoff Award winner, and you lost another guy who was really good, who had not been for injury, would have put up more numbers than he did his senior year in Tillman. But the depth in this wide receiver room is pretty dang good right now, and I'm excited to see it. And I'd seen some stuff talking about how where Kelsey Pope got a raise and an extension, there was some big teams coming after him. And so kudos that they were able to keep him. Definitely did not want to lose him. Darren Weaver, I'm worried about running back room. Believe we need to hit the portal with Cam out. I think I've seen that Selden will be back. He'll be ready to go in the fall, but I don't know that I disagree with you on that one. I mean, you've got Sampson, you've got hopefully a healthy Selden, but after that, I mean, you've got Bishop, you've got Keith, you've got Peyton Lewis who's coming in. He's out for spring injured as well. I don't know that it's a bad thing to go hit the portal and get another running back. I'm not sure the amount of scholarships that they have available right now. Cannot remember what the roster is. I'm definitely not going to take the time to sit here and count it right now. But I don't think it would hurt at all to have another running back, because if you lose say a Sampson or a Selden, your depth is down. You're either down to a lot of unproven guys or taking that step, or heck, you're even having to convert someone, which I don't think they want to do. I don't think it would be that bad of a thing to pick up another running back out of the portal. Cannot disagree with that at all. Actually, I agree with it. T-Lander and Spillman are both headhunters. Yeah, I like a good headhunter. Now, the only problem you get with a good headhunter sometimes is that comes with, now in this day and age, you run the risk of ejections from games. I like you guys to go bring it, though. It's still football. You're still meant to get the crap knocked out of you in football if you're a wide receiver going across the middle. It is what it is. I mean, it's been that way forever. It's that way now. Okay, you go across the middle, odds are you're going to have a guy that's going to be looking to take your head off on it. And I'm not sitting here like all for violence or nothing, but football is a violent sport. It is a violent game. It is what it is. Unless we switch it to two-hand touch football, it's going to continue to be violent. But guys like Spillman, my biggest fear with him would just have to be to, kind of tone it down and make sure you don't get those cheap helmet-to-helmet hits so much. But I love the fact that he's not afraid to hit you. T-Lander, I think he's one as well. And somebody talked about it. I can't remember who it was earlier, mentioned about him beefing up. He's looking the part now also. This linebacker core, especially, you get Pilley, who'll be ready to go in the fall. Arion Carter, who was starting to gain more and more of a role last year. What does Elijah Herring? I think he's a forgotten guy. He's been, I've talked about this earlier, thrown into the fire. What's he going to look like? He did some good things last year, but in coverage, teams exposed him a lot on that. This is the thing about Spillman. He was here, I'm pretty sure it was like the weekend of spring practice. He and Caleb Beasley, of course, Beasley got hurt. Hopefully he'll be, the good thing with Beasley is even if he is hurt, he can redshirt. Hopefully he'll be back ready to go, though. Front seven on D, as good as anyone in the country. This front seven should be loaded. It really should. That defensive line especially, they've got depth. And the thing about it was, you think of all the guys they already had, and they went out and added to it. They added the transfer from Stanford. They added Jordan Ross, ranked pretty much consistently across the recruiting boards. Top 15, top 20, we'll say at worst on that. You add that to James Pierce. You add that to Caleb Herring. You add that to Josephs as well. I mean, you add it to Omari Thomas. You've got Norman Lott. You've just got, Jason Jenkins coming on, Dominic Bailey. All these guys, man, they are stacked on this defensive line, and it is deep. It's not just front heavy. Obviously, there's some drop off from some of the next, but you could put in and out and not lose a step on it. Linebacker room is stacked. Carter's going to be a beat. Yeah, I think so too. I think so. The thing that excites me is I look across each of these units. I look across the defensive line. Tennessee's going to lose some good players after this coming season. If, Pierce keeps living up to what he did, he's going to be gone. He's going to be a first-round pick. And honestly, you want that sometimes. You want these guys. Just like with Nico. Nico needs to be a 3-year guy here. It's not what I love to having 4 or 5 years. Absolutely. But for your program to progress. Guys want to get to the NFL. They will see proof in the pudding. We need the James Pierces, the Nikos, who after 3 years, they're going high in the draft, making money. That stands out. Now, it's the NIL era is going to make things a little bit differently than it has been, but still yet, guys want to get to the pros. Well, if you're sitting and watching, you can't rest on Peyton Manning being your guy who got to the NFL. He's been retired for a long time. Now, you can't rely on, your Derek Barnett's who's bounced around a little bit. Now, you can't rely on guys from the past that you're always looking back to. You've got to consistently be putting those guys in the pro to kind of keep it up to date as well. We need that to happen. But, Carter is going to be, especially you get down the line, looking at just the talent on this team they continue to bring in. And hopefully, you got to think they'll continue to add to it this year. That secondary is pretty young, especially the guys they brought in too, still have multiple years of eligibility. That linebacking core, very young. Defensive line, they've got a lot of young talent on it as well. You look to offense, wide receiver, young talent, running back, young talent, quarterback, man. You look quarterback, Nico, Merklinger, Gaston Moore Sr., he could come in. He looked pretty good today. You get McIntyre coming in. They're going to continue to build on that. I don't know how realistic it is to get a quarterback per year with that kind of talent, but Tennessee's set at quarterback. They are absolutely set for the near future. Offensive line, they had a really good offense. This was their best offensive line class this year from a high school standpoint. Plus, you add Hurd to the mix, who was big-time talent from LSU. Keep adding to that as well. Your wide receiver, like I said, I mentioned their portal pickups. The transfer from Alabama is going to be gone, but your Holden Stays from Notre Dame, multiple years eligibility. They have other guys. This team's looking set up, man, and they just got to keep adding to it from the high school ranks. I still think with football, with so many roster spots, you've got to keep your base still has to be that, but you've also got to be effective with the portal. Also, with depth on D, when we get up and make a team one-dimensional, we can pin our ears back with fresh players. That's going to be, I've said it from the get-go. I said it on the other channel that I used to be on. The key to this defense getting to where it wants to be is just continued depth. Guys continue to develop. Depth continues to build. We're getting closer. Is Tennessee all the way there yet? I don't know the answer to that one yet. They're closer now on defense, though, I believe, than they have been because I think Aaron Beasley was good. I don't think Aaron Beasley's irreplaceable. He stayed hurt last year. He had a tough year. Not bad by any means. The secondary last year, Jalen McCullough, I don't know. It may be hard to replace. He had a pretty good year last year, but you're adding talent to that. Safety should be pretty good with it. You got guys coming back, and then you added to it from the portal. You had 3 good secondary pickups out of the portal. I got to like what's coming there. Just continue to build, man. And, hopefully dudes will stick it out, especially if they're getting playing time, especially if it's not just top heavy and you're playing basically your first string. They're going to, Tim Banks and company's going to have to start playing more guys, though. You get into a team that's having a little bit of weight with you, switch it up, maybe get some depth in. Unfortunately, until we see otherwise, we've got to prepare for that game where some offense just comes out and looks all world that we've not seen before. With South Carolina 2 years ago, unfortunately, I was there to witness that one in person. There were some games last year, Missouri, which Missouri was a decent team, make no mistake about it, but Florida looked better than they should have. So how do they continue to build with that as well? That is a good question, Kyle. I do not know if I keep trying to get stuff pulled up here on UT Sports, and the stats is just being silly on here. It's they just won't load up. It's on some kind of a Jake Leg sidearm live stats. Well, they're definitely sidearm today. That's a fact. There's definitely no overhand throwing on this one. Still trying to pull it up. I'm trying to see who participated as well. Yep, same stuff. I guess maybe when the game ended, that ended as well because it was keeping up with it. See if I can get something. Uh, see if Sports Illustrated's got some. Let's see. Rocky Top Insider might. No, that was from last year. Sports Illustrated's got a little bit on it. Let's see what they have here. Not seeing much. Seeing a little bit of a recap for them. They kind of talk about what we did. Mike Matthews, big afternoon. Gaston Moore, Jake Merklinger thought looked good. Neek didn't play a lot, but I thought he was effective. Boo Carter did some good things as well. Volunteer country. I've not looked much on volunteer country. Yeah, there's just not much on here right now. Let's see if 24/7 or possibly Twitter. Let's see. They do have top performers. Let's see what they had here. Of course, we all kind of got this Nico. They're giving Nico the quarterbacks. Brazel, of course, had his touchdown. He and Mike Matthews, Spillman. We've talked about Spillman and T. Lander and Bukar. I mean, everything kind of lines up with what you guys are saying as well on here. So, Hurd, I don't remember hearing his name either today. So I don't know that he did play. If he did, I guess that's a good and a bad thing. I guess it's probably a good thing if you don't hear lineman's name because that normally means they're getting beat. Papa J, what's up, Papa J? How did we look? Had to drive decent. There was some. I mean, just to kind of recap, quarterbacks look good today. Offensive line. I mean, I think we kind of knew what we were going to get. Offensive line with so many guys out, and that defensive line should be a strength. Some of the freshmen stood out today. Mike Matthews stood out. Of course, Chris Brazel's not a freshman, but transfer. He stood out good at wide receiver. Defense, Boo Carter, Edwin Spillman both stood out. So, you got to be excited about Tennessee and what they have right now on this roster. I mean, again, I know it wasn't a number one rated class or anything, but how many of those number one rated classes are going to stay intact too? How many of the guys are going to hit the portal after this year when it doesn't go their way? That's the nature of the beast. Now, I would second this. Receivers, quarterbacks, linebackers look good today. I mean, I thought the defensive line did some good things as well, but those three specifically, I was pretty impressed with today. With the transfer portal like it is NIL, we got to rotate some of these players on both sides of the ball if we want to keep them. You really do. That's the day and age we're in. And I'm not a firm, I guess if you've got a James Pierce, for example, and he can give you every snap, you don't want to wear him out, but you also want your best guys out there. But, there's positions. I don't feel they've always rotated that well in the secondary, but you're going to have to. You're going to have to. I don't know who your clear-cut guys are, and maybe Gibson and Jacoby Thomas are your clear-cut corners, but I think it's special. One thing I would say one beef is I kind of trip over my words there a little bit, but one beef I've always had is even in these blowouts, we're still playing starters into the fourth quarter. Get them out, man. Get them out in the third quarter, especially. I just don't understand taking those starters into the fourth quarter when it's a game in hand like that. Because there were numerous times last year I would have liked to have seen Nico more instead of Joe Milton out doing his thing. But I guess it is what it is. But I don't really agree with that fly. In a close game, sure, absolutely, you're going to keep your starters in. But in a blowout, I would never have a problem if they pulled them at halftime when the game's in hand, especially against a lower level team. Let's see, Frank, I'm excited for fall after that. Any of you haven't, I don't remember how long ago it was. I did a video I did way, way early look for next year. I predicted 11-1 next year. I predicted Georgia as the only loss at Georgia. I haven't seen anything that's changed my mind on it yet. And looking at that schedule for this coming year, we'll kind of look at that a little bit. We may get in a little pregame baseball talk here as well as the Vols kick off here, or not kick off, first pitch here in less than a couple hours. But kind of share this up here. Let me hit a couple more comments here. I agree with this. Sometimes you don't find out how good a player is until he gets to play in a real game. Man, an old adage, you practice how you play. Sometimes practice sucks. Sometimes practice just sucks. It sucks as a coach and a player. Sometimes I threw so much BP last year. I was so sick of being in a cage. I was ready to get on the field last year when I coached baseball. I mean, it was, I don't know, man. That's why I'm kind of off topic. Confuses me about these arms nowadays. Being another coach would throw over 500 pitches a day almost. And at our age, and of course, we're not throwing high 90s either. So, that's one of the things. But yeah, practice does make a habit. But some guys, I've coached guys that, practice, they're fine. And then all of a sudden they get in the game and they're a gamer. I mean, it's just, I've had pitchers shock me. I've watched them throw bullpens and stuff. And I'm like, got a little bit of, all of a sudden you get in the game. And it's like, where is this at, man? It just awesome. And then you get, on the other end, you get guys who look phenomenal in practice and they get aim. And I don't know if it's nerves or what it is, but, yeah, it's kind of all can say, but yeah, I agree. Especially sometimes like here, I think Heupel likes to pad those stats. Maybe so. I just don't get. I think you risk injury, and injuries are just bigger parts of games today, I feel, than they are anything else. So, especially with a quarterback, my main quarterback, I don't want my main quarterback in any longer than possible on it. And I'll be curious to see this year if they get big leads, how long they keep Nico out there, if they come up and go Gaston Moore. Because I think the plan is, I've read, and I don't know if it's changed. If it's a short-term injury to Nico, you'll probably see Gaston Moore come in. But if it's long-term, and hopefully that's not even a case we have to go look at. But if it's long-term, they may go more Merklinger. But again, hopefully it's not something we even have to think about this year. I hope it's a case where Merklinger can actually redshirt. Yeah, Joe. Yeah, that's right. Apparently Milton, we heard about how good he always looked in practice. And, he had his moments last year, but I still ask that question, why the change wasn't made at Florida. But you know what? I will say this. If a down year for Tennessee football's 9-4, we're in good hands. We're in good hands. There was parts of last year I did not feel were that great. Yet that team still goes 9-4. So could it have been better? Yeah, it should have been. There's no reason they should have went to Florida and lost. I didn't have a problem with the other 3 losses, but Florida should have never happened. Should have never happened last year. Looking at this year, and I had to schedule up, and we'll share my screen. We'll kind of look at it together. Here we go. Of course, orange and white game today. Chattanooga. I'm curious to see if they move this one. It's listed Saturday. I know NC State moved their opener up to Thursday, and Heupel's normally not one that likes to be outdone. I would not be at all surprised if that Chattanooga game gets moved to Thursday night. And I don't think it would be that bad of an idea. Get some eyes on it where you're not going to get them on that Saturday with all the action going on. NC State and Charlotte, that'll be a tough game, but I still think it's a game Tennessee should win. I just think Tennessee has more talent than North Carolina State. But, it is a pretty good program. Dorian's done a pretty good job. And he's a guy that at one point in time during that Pruitt search was rumored he was ready to take the job. And who knows? I think it was. I don't know what to. We definitely saw worse hires. Let's put it that way. I don't know he would have been that bad. I don't know how he would have done in Knoxville either. Kent State should be a win. Here's the one that's going to be interesting, and I'm picking Tennessee to win, but based on how Tennessee's played on the road, I would not bet money on this at Oklahoma. And I've seen some of the pollsters are pretty high on Oklahoma going into next year. So that could be one I'm wrong on. Going to Oklahoma depends on what team. Tennessee at some point has got to get over these road woes. They've gone on the road for some reason. Kentucky, it doesn't affect them, but anybody else they go on the road against, I don't know what happens, but it's been pretty bad. Next week at Arkansas, I mean, here's the thing you got to factor in. I'm picking them to go on the road just because I think they got a lot more talent and they're better than Arkansas. It's an Arkansas program that's been on the decline. We'll see how they are this year. I just feel they're better. They should go in and win that game. Florida in Knoxville, there's absolutely no freaking excuse to let Florida come into Knoxville and beat you this year. And there's frankly no excuse to even let them come in and be close. But as we know with Florida, a win is a win is a win. You take what you can get. The one 2 years ago, at the end, I was catching my breath on it, and it felt weird because they got that onside kick, and it looked like potential for another disaster. They pulled it out. But at some point, Florida's down right now. Florida does not have the talent. You've got to, at some point, honestly, kick their asses for them. Not just beat them. At some point, you've really got to blow them out. Again, why be upset if they just beat them close? And absolutely not. I don't take any Florida wins for granted because they don't happen often. And we've seen some of the biggest bedwetting happen in Tennessee history when they play Florida. Just stuff that's unbelievable to even look back on. I picked Tennessee to beat Alabama. I picked them to beat Alabama just because they're coming to Knoxville. Alabama lost good players with the coaching change. I think DeBoer is a great coach. I think they did about as good as they could do, losing Saban. But at the same time, they're coming to Knoxville. Tennessee's got to win that game. You got to protect your home turf. Georgia last year did not have a problem with Georgia coming in winning. I mean, I didn't want them to, obviously, but the talent level is not even close. Tennessee should, if Nico does what we think he can do. Does Nico have to be all-world? No, but Nico does his job. Tennessee wins this game. Kentucky coming in. I expect Kentucky to be better. Kentucky had some nice portal pickups, but at the same time, I expect Tennessee to win that game. I didn't realize Tennessee had 4 straight SEC home games here. That's interesting. Mississippi State on November the 9th. Of course, you've got the week off after Alabama, so I guess that splits it up a little bit. Mississippi State, that's a game Tennessee should win. Now, I'm curious to see what they have with Jeff Levy taking over. I got to think that their offense is going to, I wouldn't say mirror Tennessee's, but it's going to be fast-paced. So we'll be interested to see what they do. At Georgia, there is a possibility of it. If Tennessee takes care of business, it's like 2 years ago where you go down to Athens and it's two of the top teams matching up in that game. Until I see it, I've got to pick Georgia in that game. Georgia's still going to be loaded. They've got Carson Beck, who's still going to be good. Can Tennessee go down and win that game? Possibly. But based on how they played on the road, based on Georgia's talent, that's just not one that I would favor them in. So I've got to go in my predictions with the Georgia win. UTEP and Knoxville, it shouldn't be close. Vanderbilt in Nashville should not be close. So worst case I see with this, worst case you let Alabama come in and beat you. And worst case you lose to Oklahoma at Oklahoma. I just think they're better than North Carolina. I don't see that should happen. So worst case regular season, 9-3. Best case 12-0. Could 11-1 happen? I think 11-1 is really realistic. I do. North Carolina State, Alabama, Georgia, and Oklahoma will be our toughest. Yeah, I agree with that. I totally agree with that one. And if you can get if you get 3 of those, I mean, really, I guess if you look at it and you go 2-2 in those, that's not bad. But for this program, they're expanding the playoffs next year. I think you got to want to get in the playoffs. I think the goal should be, and I think this team should be a playoff team next year. There is enough talent in Knoxville that they should be a playoff team. At some point, yeah, you got to beat Florida down, not just beat them. All right. Again, I'm never going to complain about just beating Florida after the way the last 20 years have gone. At some point, you've got to just beat the hell out of them. You really do. And this is the year coming up to do it. I just don't think Florida's going to be that good again. And old Billy's not going to be down at Florida very long. So you better get it before Florida gets that hire right. Because who's to say, well, I don't know. A lot of people say, well, Kiffin would go down there. What would Kiffin do down there? I don't know. I still think he's a bonehead when it boils down to it. And I think he'll get in his own way before it's all said and done. But, he does play an exciting brand of ball, and he is very effective at using the portal. Also, you get him down to a program like Florida. I don't know what their NIL situation's like. I don't think it's great based on what I've looked at. But you get some support. You get a coach in down there. Somebody will eventually, they'll get another Urban Meyer in at Florida who will get that program rolling again. The fact that Tennessee's not been able to take advantage of some inept hires over the years is kind of the thing that sucks about it, because Florida is not – Dan Mullen was a pretty good coach. I think they jumped the gun in getting rid of him. But, if things are just going off the rails so much, I guess you have to do what you have to do. Tennessee did it with Pruitt. They found their out with them, thank God, because I remember that's when on the other channel I was on, I started doing a little bit of the day after stuff. That was the only thing I was doing with the channel. And, man, I got killed for saying Pruitt out on it. I never liked Jeremy Pruitt. I never liked him. I got just killed on that. But stood by it. He wasn't the guy. He was not the guy. Get him as far away from Knoxville as could be. Frankly, it's an embarrassment to me that he's considered a teacher, supposedly. Now, that's a slap in the face to my profession there as well. But let's see. Hopefully, Inge can prepare us for Alabama. Yeah, that's right. Inge has been with Kalen DeBoer for a bit, so that hopefully he can. Absolutely. Now, is it Reese? Is Alabama? I can't remember who Alabama's offensive coordinator, if they kept the same guy, if they went with someone else on that one. But that is a good point for sure. Bet you $1 Matt Jones has his wine and cheese run after Kentucky gets stuffed yet again. I mean, I will say this, the Kentucky fans that after, of course, they were good because Kentucky beat Tennessee. I gave them their props on that. They were pretty good that come in, but every fan base has some crazies out there. Let's make no mistake about it. But Twitter brings out the best in all of them. Some of those I've seen on Twitter think that, the biggest problem is, here's the biggest problem with all of it. These guys get their thrills because they keep getting the attention. If people like Tennessee fans would just ignore them, but I guess that's probably, you've got your trolls. You ignore these guys, they'll go away at some point. Yeah, Florida's schedule, I cannot remember what it is, but it's supposedly pretty brutal this year. Would kids? He probably would. I would almost bet you money, Papa J, that if you took Kiffin a mustard bottle or a golf ball, he would sign it and laugh about it. That's one thing about it. He's got a pretty good sense of humor about him. He is definitely he's something else. There's no doubt. We know it from the time here. But I almost bet you money if you took him a mustard bottle, he would sign it and probably take a picture and smile about it, no doubt. Close to 50 of you in here. It's been a good little show here. Good little comments. I think I'm going to wrap this thing up. We're about 55 minutes in. Let's, before we wrap it up, we'll shift gears just a little bit. Tennessee baseball taking the mound here in just a little bit. Troy Lee Nugent, my man, in the chat. Thank you. Good to see you in here. There's a lot of guys that's been popping up, found this channel from the old other channel that I was on, man. It's been good to see a bunch of you on here. Now, I will say this, and I said it in my Twitter feed when I post this and in the YouTube. This is not going to be my norm for football. I'm not getting into the post-game game. There's numerous channels doing that, and they have good followings with. They've done it for a while. Right now, I did it today just because I don't think many were doing it. It was kind of something to be a little bit different. But baseball, basketball, definitely tested it out with baseball last night. We had a good little response, about 30, 35 people the whole time for baseball. I've seen, for me, I've actually gotten more feedback on basketball than football, but I've not gotten fully into football. Baseball, baseball is just not as popular. People like it, but it's just not out there. But hopefully that'll continue to build. Also, my main thing I'm looking for now for football, I'm thinking about on Saturday mornings, like bright and early, getting up, getting some breakfast, cup of coffee. Nick Sheridan, there you go. Thank you, Kyle. I could not remember if it was Reese, but I was thinking somebody else came down there. That's it, Nick Sheridan. Was Nick Sheridan not a GA or something at Tennessee at some point? You guys remember that? Because I swear I feel like that name sounds familiar with it. And I may be wrong, may be thinking of someone else. But my kind of thinking with football is do some football shows, just videos, amping it up. But my big idea I have is kind of a Saturday morning, 8 a.m., wake up with the ball, something along those lines, and just say, we'll kind of talk about the game for the day, get going, kind of get woken up on the game, and then lead up to the game. How about Alabama being ranked ahead of it? I don't have a problem with it just because I know how they rank it. They go with Alabama's in the Final Four, so they're going to rank the Final Four teams are going to go based off that. So I don't really have a problem with it in that regard. Is it right? I don't know. I think the rankings at the end of the year, honestly, are pointless. They're frankly pointless because it's not like it used to be in football where you've got two polls voting on the national champion. You've got a tournament that's determining who wins the national championship. It's like, even though I kind of shook my head about it, Tennessee, I saw Danny White, love Danny White. I love everything's being done, but then he was bragging about, Tennessee finishing 5th, and great season. Don't get me wrong on it, but I don't know. I kind of don't get the point of it. So I don't take the end of season rankings that serious. I may take them a little more seriously in football, but even in football, you've got a playoff to decide it. What's it matter? So just my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right. Doesn't mean I'm wrong on it either. Let's see. Like it's much better. We'll follow you, bro. You're always favorite. I appreciate that, man. That's a lot of you guys that's come over, a lot of the OGs from the other channels on that's come over. It's been good to see a bunch of you on here. Good to see a lot of the support. And here I've tried to get this channel out as much as possible just with my social media. And some of these, would it be nice to have some favors returned and kind of help from some others? Sure, but it ain't gonna happen. And I'm all right with that. All right. I'm okay with it because this thing's building naturally. It's building slowly, but it's been fun. It's been cool. It's been kind of fun to do my own thing and do it how I want to do it as well, because I am a believer of it. It's just like my philosophy with playing sports now, because I'm kind of going on a tangent here, I guess, but with playing sport, with baseball, you're seeing all these injuries. You see them in basketball. And a lot of my research is because guys are specializing in one sport. All right. Well, here's my relation. Here's where I'm relating that. For me, it's a no-brainer. If I'm going to do Tennessee, I'm going to do all three. I want to do them all. It keeps me rolling year-round. A little bit of a dry period, I guess, when baseball ends in, May, maybe early June. Can't remember how long it is. It goes waiting for fall practice to start, or summer practice, more or less. But I don't know. It's just a lot of fun to cover all. And I've always just been a big fan of all of them because it's you didn't have the coverage, of course, of Tennessee baseball. ESPN Plus has changed the game as far as being able to watch college baseball. And now this Flow baseball, this Flow sports, they have a lot of different stuff. You can catch a little bit of stuff on it. But just as recent as 4 or 5 years ago, before ESPN Plus, it was just rare to be able to watch college baseball. And now it's out there. Every game we can watch somewhere. on it. So that's pretty cool. That's allowed that as well. But continue to roll with this channel, man. Baseball coverage. I'm probably not going to be able to do a post game tonight. I'm heading up the road a little bit. Got a prior engagement that heading up to. Will not get back late from that, but I'll definitely have a post game wrap tomorrow, wrapping up the series. As Tennessee goes to try to win the series tonight, it'll be tough though. Drew Beam versus Holman for LSU, their ace on stat, Luke Holman, and should be a fun game. Hopefully, we get the Drew Beam that we know is capable of showing up tonight. If so, you've got to think Tennessee will have a good shot at it. If you can get Holman and get to LSU's bullpen, they're going to have a good shot tonight. And in turn, if LSU gets Tennessee's bullpen, who knows how it goes. But we need Beam to a good 6-7 innings. He had a good outing last week. He didn't have a good outing 2 weeks ago. Hopefully that guy from last week shows up again this week, and Tennessee will have a good shot, especially with that offense to win. Should be an exciting atmosphere today with especially everything going on in Knoxville with the orange and white game. I think they're having a watch party tonight as well. If you're in Knoxville, if you live in that area, if you're not able to get to the baseball game, I'm pretty sure they're having a big screen and stuff. Should be a fun atmosphere as well. But let's see, Sheridan was offensive coordinator at Indiana when Penix was there and then went to Washington. Man, I swear I feel like Sheridan was at Tennessee as a GA at some point. But I don't know, man. I may be wrong. I feel like maybe it was under Butch Jones. I'm going to get the answer on that right now. Let's see. I'm going to look up Nick Sheridan. Let's see if we can find a bio of old Nick. There's a wiki of him. Let's see if it's updated. Coaching career. He was hired to be a graduate assistant at Tennessee in 2014 following his termination from South Florida. So he was fired after one season at South Florida along with offensive coordinator Walt Wells. I was thinking Walt Wells was at Tennessee too at some point. Maybe thinking of somebody else there also. He coached at Tennessee for 4 seasons before being named the quarterback's coach at Indiana in 2017. All right, so he was definitely there, and so he was with Mike DeBoard. And then when Mike DeBoard went up to Indiana, he went with Mike DeBoard, is the way I'm reading it. And then I guess when DeBoard retired, maybe Sheridan moved into that. So, yep, he was definitely there. I thought that name was familiar with it. Let's see. What else we got here? Papa J, yeah, thank you. Thank you, guys. Hey, if you guys didn't tune in, man, it wouldn't be worth doing it. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Always try to catch a live show, but I've been going watching. Even I appreciate you, man. Love you. Yeah, I mean, the nice comments are good on here, guys, especially you guys that we've known of, each other for a while from old channel. It's pretty cool to see a lot of you in here. Bob says don't remember what account it was. This and a couple more. Let's go baseballs. Yeah, I'd like to see them. I would like to see them go into Sunday with that series wrapped up. They've been every SEC series has been a rubber game at this point. So hopefully I'd like to see him take care of it, especially against Luke Holman. Good pitcher, very good pitcher tonight. And if you're going to have an elite offense can be an elite offense, but if you've got a guy, does an elite offense beat an elite pitcher is always the question. Darren Weaver, try sharing it on some groups. Maybe I'd help you. I appreciate that, man. Appreciate all that. Awesome to have somebody actually cover baseball and basketball. That's the plan. That's why I set out to do this channel. I'm not looking to do what everybody else is doing. Just not. That's if so, it's kind of pointless. I'm not, the live show game's pretty cool, but also, a lot of those quick videos and stuff. That is how I've learned to try to build it. And that gets more information out than, somebody's more apt to watch a 10, 11 minute video than they are some joker like me rambling for over an hour. But I'm going to wrap this thing up, guys. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in on here. This was kind of impromptu. I thought about it overnight and really kind of just decided when the orange and white game started. So pretty cool to see a lot of you guys in here. Tennessee football, man, there's a lot of positives there's a bright future for Tennessee football. There's a bright fall ahead if all things fall into place. And, if this team does what it's capable of doing with the talent they have, I think we're going to have a lot of fun this fall. My name's Frank Rock, guys. Make sure you like this, share it. And if you have not already and you like the content, make sure you subscribe. It is free. I'm not on here trying to bum for money. I'm not on here trying to, any of that stuff. Would it be nice at some point to be able to have that option? Sure, but it's free, man. Come on here and have fun. We'll talk Tennessee sports. You guys have an awesome Saturday. It's a beautiful day out there. It's 4:09 on the East Coast. It's 4:09 in the upstate. Enjoy your evening. As always, and last but definitely not least, go Vols.
Everyone rejects me.